Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good, very good. I'm sorry, my
Good morning, sir.
video is not working. I think there's some issue with the internet speed. Anyway, we may start the program. Huh? Pandey is there? Hello, Pandey.
Pandey sir, you are not audible.
Hello. Am I audible now?
Pandey?
Hello, sir.
Yeah, can you hear me, sir?
Yes, now you are audible, sir.
Start now, Pandey.
Sir.
But I won't be visible. There is some internet issue, some speed issue. So my the camera is on, but I'm not visible. I cannot see myself also. So I think you're not also visible.
Okay, sir.
Okay, please start.
Sir, good morning to all. As we are celebrating the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, and we have already entered in the third day of this Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. We are very honored that this webinar is on such a great day, that today is 12th of January, National Youth Day. We are also celebrating the birthday of Swami Vivekananda. Man is born to conquer nature and not to follow it. This quote still reverberates in the ears of every individual who wishes to overcome any difficulty with their fearless attitudes. This is a quote of our great national hero, Swami Vivekananda. Let's remember him and his teachings that changed our lives for good. So we are very honored that today we have a great day with this webinar also. So today's webinars, as we know, the topic is Role of AYCL in Tea Industry in India, with discourse on sector-specific aspiration. Tea industry, vehicle for economic development of tribal population in Assam and West Bengal. Now I would request to our CMD sir to inaugurate this webinar.
Thank you, Mr. S.K. Pandey, and good morning to all of you.
Good morning, sir.
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 Good morning, sir. Good morning. Today is a very auspicious day, as also celebrated as the National Youth Day. So on this very auspicious day, Swamiji's role in Indian independence, I don't have to spend on that, because he inspired so many youths to fight for the freedom of India, and ultimately India achieved the freedom, and our PM is a great, and many youth even today and for years to come would be following the principles of our great Swamiji. So remembering him and giving a blessing to him, I just inaugurated this webinar in this Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. This is the third day, and today's am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Some echo is happening. That is
Yes, you are audible.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
okay. Today we shall discuss in this seminar, and Mrs. Hummingbird is again partnering with us in this very important webinar, which is the role of AYCL in tea industry in India, and with the specific discourse on sector-specific aspiration and tea industry as a vehicle for economic development of the tribal population in Assam and West Bengal. As you know that Andrew company was established in 1863, and tea was the first business of Andrew. Then the Hulunguri tea estate was acquired in 1863. And then it went on expanding business in the organic manner and inorganic way. It acquired many tea companies afterwards, and various other businesses like the printing business, shipping business, power, and the collieries. So all the businesses went into, but after the tea was the primary business of Andrew, and still it is. Now, Andrew's turnover, 70% of the Andrew's turnover is from the tea. And tea engages some 14,000 employees. And most of the employees are from the various tribes in India, in the North Bengal. So it is very important that tea industry continues with good health, and being a government sector enterprise, that Andrew has also contributed a lot in the economic development of the tribal population in Assam and West Bengal. So, so I think that Andrew would continue with its glory and would expand the business. Presently, we have submitted to the Minister of Heavy Industry and the Secretary of Heavy Industries also that we have an expansion plan. We want to acquire more gardens, and we want to increase at least 2 million kg output in the next 2 years. So how it will be done, what actions should be taken, that would be an operational issue. But we should be proud that still after 75 years of independence, Andrew is going strong and is contributing to Indian economy and the welfare of the tribal population and our employees, 14,000 employees, and indirectly 1 lakh people are associated with us in Assam and Bengal. So with this word, I hand it over to Mrs. Hummingbird. I think if SK Pandey can want to tell something, you can tell.
Yes, sir.
To Mrs. Hummingbird, please.
Yes, sir. To move further in the session, just thank you, sir, for great words. Now I would just hand over the mic to Sritanvir Siddiqui, sir, Managing Director of Hummingbird, to go ahead for the session. Thank you. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, very good morning to all. And it's pretty a privilege when we are celebrating the progressive India, the achievements of India in the 75 years, our glorious history, the past, the contributions that the various sections of the society has made. Can I ask everyone to please mute their mics? So what could be a better way than celebrating the success of 75 years that we have seen? I'm very glad, and this is a privilege to be part of these celebrations. I thank the management of Andrew Yule and Company for giving us an opportunity to be part of their this collective celebrations. Hummingbirds have worked very closely with the HR department, with the HR team, try to understand that what are the expectations from all these sessions, because the session speaks highly about the kind of things that we are seeing. The first session was about the resolve, where we have taken a resolve that yes, India has to grow, but we'll have to take care of our environment as well, a sustainable economic development. The last session we have talked about the action, the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, the Swachh Bharat mission, and I think the faculty has sensitized all of us on many things. Today we are talking about the resolve of continuing with our success story. It's a great achievement, as the CMD sir has said that the AYCL is into this business, is into existence for more than 157-58 years. This is a moment of pride that you are all part of this particular industries. You are part of a group, an organization which has contributed significantly towards the economic development of India and also to the upliftment of the peoples in the tribal areas. Apart from this, what brings the significance to any session is that when it is driven from the top. So in spite of the CMD sir having a very busy schedule for each of the session, when he is making himself available and he is opening the session with some beautiful words, taking us through some something about AYCL and all that. So you can't have asked for anything better than this. Considering that this topic requires tremendous amount of understanding about the tea industries, about AYCL contribution and all that, Today we have the privilege of, getting listened to Mr. Dhamraj, a person who has been into the tea industry for quite some time. He has seen the tea industry from a very deep, the inside out. Mr. Narendranath Dhamraj, our speaker today, is the former CEO and whole-time director of Harrison Malayalam Limited, former president of OPASI, and former member of Tea Board of India. He is associated with us with Hummingbirds as a principal consultant, and he is also advising to various tea industries on the revival plan. How the tea industries can be revived, how the operational efficiencies can be bring in. So today's session, I'm pretty sure that all of you will be enriching yourself with his vast knowledge and experience, and he is here with all of us. So over to you, sir. The session is all yours. We are here to celebrate this and listen something from you, and we can make a resolve today, as a part of AYCL Hummingbirds joint collaboration. So thank you so very much, everybody. Please listen to Mr. Dhamraj now. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Tanvir. Good morning to you, Chairman Saab. Good morning, Panditji. Good morning to all of you, gentlemen.
Good morning, sir.
Let me now request Rosie to kindly run a video. This video is set in Chennai city background, but it is, it represents any other metro or city of India with respect to the culture of tea drinking, how tea is such a mainstream part of the Indian diaspora. So I request Rosie to kindly run the video. Just very
yes, sir.
It puts us into the realm of the imagination that tea can bring to all of us before the start of a session like this. Thank you.
Okay, there is some error from my end. I'll just present the video in a short. Sir, you can continue with your this discussion till the time I'll present the video. So we don't wait for this. We'll just start.
Yeah, when you're ready, let me know, Rosie.
Yes, sir. I guess everyone is all set. We'll start the session. Mr. Dharmraj will start. Sir, it's not audible. Okay.
Yeah, video is there, but not audible.
It's okay, sir.
audio is still not there.
It's okay, like we can manage that.
It basically brings out the fact how tea threads the fabric of unity in diversity that we Indians are so proud of. It links people across sex, across gender, across age, across income levels, Garib, Amir. Maybe the method of brewing might differ. The more upmarket people might drink tea bag, but it might be brewed in a cloth sieve, in a samovar, in a tea shop. But nevertheless, it is the fulcrum of the Indian day-to-day life, and therefore extremely important as part of the Indian culture, and therefore it as a beverage, as an industry, it gels extremely well with the topic of Azadi Ka Amrit also, which we are celebrating with all honor and pride.
ஆமா காய்ங்க தான் பயன்படுது சுத்தி அழகா அந்த பட்டர் ஊத்துனது. ஆமா சார் நான் செடி கேட்டிருக்கேன் சார். எந்த செடி? அதான் எல்லாம் தானா நல்லா பண்ணிடுவேன். அது கொஞ்சம் வரமாட்டேன் கண்ணு.
Thank you, Mr. Tanvi, for presenting the video. Over to you, Mr. Dharmaraj. We can start. I'll present the PPT for you.
Yeah, please. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Rosie, are you set?
Yes, sir.
Can we have this slide, please? Yeah, are we on?
Yes, sir. You can start.
Yeah. Are we ready?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Yeah, once I finish the slide, I can start. Okay. Just go back to the previous slide, please. Yeah, I first of all, I would like to thank Mr. Bhattacharya, Chairman and Managing Director of Andrew Yule, for this opportunity to address the Andrew Yule team on this great occasion of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav and share my humble thoughts about the tea industry that I have been part of for the last 45 odd years. The specific topic here is, of course, the impact of tea industry in which Andrew Yule is a significant player with respect to the development of the tribal population in Assam and West Bengal. Of course, that is a very simplistic target, but in order to achieve that, apparently several aspects of the business needs to be put right, and we need to examine what are the challenges before us in ensuring the economic viability of this great industry as we strive to impact both the employees as well as the community around us. Thank you, Tanvir, for your introduction. You know, I always say that I belong to a family of smallholder coffee family, a place called Wayanad in Kerala, but I took up to tea planting as a means of livelihood. And then later in life, I embraced the rubber tree like in a chipko movement. And in between, I interplanted my life with various crops like pepper and pineapple and cardamom, etc. So I look forward to every opportunity to give back whatever little experience and knowledge one has gathered towards the betterment of the industry. So thank you for this opportunity, sir. Once again, both to Andrew Yule and Hummingbird. Thank you. Next, please. I was trying to articulate a little more about what we are hoping to achieve at this end of this session. Pardon me for reading through it. It is to provide a platform to the officers and management staff of Andrew Yule's tea business to reinforce their sense of pride in belonging to an industry that seeks to balance financial viability of the business with the social and economic security net of the workmen, farmers, diversity and climate change mitigation management, while acknowledging their role as a significant player in the industry and to facilitate achievement of holistic sustainability of the industry. Holistic sustainability of the tea industry is what we are all committed to. You are significant players in the industry, and I have lately defined tea industry as a balance between economic viability of the industry, the social and economic security net to the workmen, biodiversity and climate change mitigation management. So a good business should balance these things in equal measure, is my humble opinion. Next, please. As has already been mentioned, Andrew Yule is a very old company, a multi-product company. The principal business being tea, which has got roughly a turnover of 230 crores out of a total turnover of 800 crores. You must bear with me while I tell you things that you already know, but that is more to put the presentation in its right perspective and flow. It's almost like carrying coal to Newcastle, as they say. But we will go through that, and these are information we have gathered from the public domain, and presenting here things which are significant to the theme of the presentation. Now, when we talk about a 150-year-old or 170-year-old company, it is very significant, as somebody earlier on mentioned, because we are living in an era of business where we find traditional business falling like 9 pins because of disruptive models are arriving each day. But for an industry to continue, an organization to continue for 1.5 decades is no mean achievement. That really means that you are doing something very right about the aspect of the business, as indeed making an impact to the stakeholders. Next, please. Again, information that you know, you have 12 tea gardens spread over Assam, Doas and Darjeeling, producing approximately 10 million kilograms of tea. You have 7 estate factories in Assam, 5 with the dual manufacturing facility of CTC and Orthodox, and 2 pure line CTC. 4 estates in North Bengal, 1 in Darjeeling, and approximately 40% of your production comes from Bengal and 60% from Assam. You also have estates in Jorhat. I have mentioned that. I actually did work for a year in Dumduma sometime in 1999 when it was a part of the Hindustan Lever. So I know Jorhat is a good quality zone. So I thought I will make a special mention of that. Next one, please. I could make out that you are doing product differentiation into specialty teas, flavored teas, oolong, white tea, hand rolled, and TP orthodox. And what was very encouraging was to see that you are doing direct exports to premium European markets. But why I'm saying this is because not many producers do direct exports. They find it convenient to either sell it in the auctions or hand it over to traders who are typically merchant exporters, who then take a margin out of that and export it. So I think direct export is a very laudable initiative. You have clients like Unilever and Tata Consumer Products Limited. Next one, please. In terms of the employees, as has already been mentioned, you have roughly 15,000 employees. I'm told about 10,000 are permanent employees. and 30 to 40% of them are from the economically weaker sections and reserved category, as indeed the community living around your estates. And as apart from statutory wages, all provisions of the Plantation Labor Act 1951 are given to them in terms of housing, medical aid, education, etc. Next one, please. Community development, I'm told, is very much a part of your management portfolio, and as we mentioned, your community also has a large proportion of tribals and scheduled category of people, and they are covered by various schemes, some of which with help from bigger organizations like ITC and Unilever. Next, please. As with the rest of the tea industry, I understand growth has been under pressure. Margins have been under pressure because of costs outrunning prices. And now this is a malady which is running across the tea industry. We have seen over the years, the last few years, many big tea companies getting into serious financial problem. Of course, the bigger some of the bigger companies which are part of bigger multi-business groups are continuing despite suffering losses. So the industry, suffice to say, the industry is at crossroads, and we need to find new dimensions to take it forward. Next one, please. Again, some basic facts about tea, but it is worthy of being reiterated. Tea is a natural and health-providing beverage. There is no one of the few products which is there's no external additive. It is internally synthesized. Tea is the second most consumed beverage in the world after water. Tea industry is the second largest employer in India after the railways and armed forces. They employ roughly 12 million people, which is huge. Typically, it is a rural industry and therefore impacts rural economy. Tea plantations are exempted from the Land Ceiling Act. Land Ceiling Act is very much there in almost all states where plantations operate. But as you are aware, in the case of individuals, in the case of other crops, there is a ceiling of the extent of area that one can hold. In Kerala, my state, it is what they call 12 standard acres, for instance. But tea plantations were exempted from the provisions of Land Ceiling Act or Land Reforms Act because they were an organized industry. They were foreign exchange earners, and therefore came under the purview of the Union Commerce Ministry, and therefore they were exempted from the provisions of Land Ceiling Act, as indeed the fact that they are large employers. The tea industry is one of the industries where foreign direct investment is allowed. Next, please. Some basic statistics. All India production is 1325 million kilograms. Assam leads with 676, which is a little over 50%, followed by West Bengal, which is about 31%, followed by Tamil Nadu, which is about 11%, followed by Kerala, which is 4%. So Assam and West Bengal, very, very significant players in the industry. Out of the 1325, almost 90% is CTC, roughly 10% is Orthodox, and maybe about 2% green tea. Now, this is a significant bit of statistics because for companies that are producing fair volume of Orthodox tea, this is an opportunity. I used to, when in my working days, I used to tell my managers that, technically, every kilo of Orthodox tea that you produce must be exported because there's hardly any Orthodox tea that is being consumed in the country, very little, as a matter of fact. So if you don't export it, somebody is buying it from you and adding a margin and exporting it. So that is clearly a target which is worth taking up. Next one, please. As you know, in India, there has been a huge growth of the unorganized sector. Today, all India level, they are almost 50% of the total production. It varies between states. Assam, little under 50%, Bengal, little over 50%, Tamil Nadu, significantly over 50%. Mainly the smallholders are in Nilgiris. Kerala, of course, a much smaller area under the unorganized sector. But this is a critical factor because it is a very significant part of the industry now. I will come to the issues why it is significant in the subsequent slides. Yes, please. Next, please. Production is again almost 85% of the Indian production is from North India and balance from South India. Next one, please. The number of factories in the estate sector is about 923. Pretty close to that is what is called the bottle leaf factories, which obviously are catering to the unorganized sector of small growers. Next one, please. And in terms of production, there are 2 lakh small growers and 1,500 large growers. Next, please. Yeah, so coming back to the economics of the small grower sector, as I said, they are significant. The main reason is their cost of production is significantly lower than the organized sector. Partly because they are mostly owner labor, so there is no payout in terms of wages. Many companies, I'm not sure if Andrew Yule does bottle leaf operations, but many tea companies do bottle leaf operations in their own factory apart from their own processing. And to my knowledge, this bottle leaf vertical is irrespective of the problems in the own production sector. This bottle leaf operation, all companies I find are making margins. The reason is the lower cost of the raw material. And also, you know, the typical bottle leaf factories, which are 100% processing bottle leaf from small growers. Many of them work on a price minus basis. So it is price minus cost of conversion minus margin, and the balance is only given to the green leaf suppliers. Of course, there are Tea Board guidelines on this. Tea Board stipulates that 65% of your published price must be given as green leaf price. But the problem there is, you know, you have various modes of sale. You have auctions, you have private sales. So typically what happens is most of the poor quality teas are put in the auctions, and that forms the basis of the price allocation for the smallholders. So it is an issue with regard to green leaf pricing. And because of this price minus kind of formula, the bottle leaf factories, I mean, there are exceptions, I must hasten to add, but typically they are not quality driven. So it actually 50% of our total Indian production turns out quality teas which are not meeting the quality standards. And that is in a way driving the prices down, because the traders and the packers find it easier to source from that. It is value for money for them, and therefore it brings down the overall demand supply equation against the interest of the producers or the organized sector. Having said that, as I said, since that model is making money, there is some strength, inherent strength in that model. You know, corporate people, when I can talk little dispassionately now that I am not drawing anybody's paycheck at the end of the month, But corporate people often say, oh no, the smallholders, they have no overheads, they have no social and welfare cost, etc. But they seem to forget one thing, that they are owners of their own land. I am mentioning this, there is a link to what I propose to say later on, but the trade-off for not having that cost is the fact that they are owners of their own land, where obviously they have their house and everything else. Next one, please. In terms of wages, obviously there is a huge disparity between the states, largely in line with the wholesale price index, to some extent based on the bargaining power of the local politics and trade unionism. Kerala leading with 400 odd, Tamil Nadu closely following with 375. Assam recent figure is 207, I'm told. West Bengal, I am told, is 176, but I believe 275 is on the cards. I mean, you will be more conversant with these figures. So this is the information that I have. Next one, please.
West Bengal is 202, sir.
Sorry?
West Bengal is at present 202.
202.
23?
202, sir. West Bengal.
202. Okay, noted. Thanks. Yeah, next, please. In terms of productivity of land, there's marginal difference only. It used to be wide difference between South used to be significantly higher than North India in terms of yield per hectare, but that gap seems to be coming down for various reasons. One of the reasons being, South Indian industries got into trouble even earlier than North India. It started with the collapse of the erstwhile USSR market, which was a captive market for South Indian CTCTs. In fact, those days, people used to say jocularly that even a student going to Russia to study felt it mandatory to take a container of tea with him, because on the rupee-ruble agreement, anything was selling. But anyway, with the disintegration of USSR and the formation of CIS, that market was lost, and therefore the margins were under pressure, therefore inputs suffered, therefore yield suffered. So now, as you can see, the difference is not all that significant. But what is significant is this parameter on labor productivity. I don't know how you are measuring it, but the measurement that I am used to is Meiti per man day, which in Assam is around 2 kilos Meiti per man day, which is 8 kilos per Meiti per man day in South India. So that is a huge disparity, which if you compare with the Assam wage of 207, you're talking about a 4 times difference in productivity output. So effectively, it's like Assam paying 800 rupees against Kerala's 400 rupees, in terms of cost of production. Of course, these wages are inclusive of dearness allowance, but exclusive of some of the benefits in kind which Assam is giving, probably West Bengal also, like food grains, fuel, etc. And it's also exclusive of what we typically call wage-related cost, which is provident fund, gratuity, statutory minimum bonus, etc. Next one, please. In terms of export, India, out of the 1350, we export about 250 million kilograms of tea. Last year, of course, it come down to 206 for a couple of reasons. One is the Indian prices, as you know, last year shot up on the back of a huge shortage in Assam following the floods and the COVID lockdown. And at the same time, prices in Kenya dropped significantly, so the consuming nations found it easier to source from country production centers like Kenya. There was a huge spurt in container, transport shipping cost across the globe, which also apparently is affecting shipping cost. I mean, shipping cost have almost gone up by 4 to 5 times over the COVID period for various reasons. Anyway, so we are last year our total exports was about 202 compared to 258 the previous year. This is, of course, export figures are inclusive of value-added products, and our main market. Can you go to the previous slide, please? Our main destinations are the CIS and Iran. Can you go to the next one, please? CIS followed by Iran at 28, and then China, which is a late entrant. As you know, China is typically a green tea drinking country, but lately with a greater disposable income, especially the younger lot are trying switching over to black tea. They believe it's more fashionable, and so China becomes the third biggest destination. And then, of course, you have USA, Germany, UK, etc. The average unit value is average unit value is 258 last year, and it is significantly higher this year. As I said, this is inclusive of value-added is therefore not a very comparable data. Next one, please. India imports about roughly close to 40 million kilograms of tea. Not very significant. This is basically for what they call import for re-export. They are typically not allowed to sell this in the domestic market. But there has been misuse in this provision. When I was President of the PASI, we took it up with the government of India, and they actually, as per the tea marketing control order, they stipulated that all teas meant for re-export must have a minimum 50% value addition, which again is difficult to monitor because both the tea board and the excise the departments are involved, and you know what happens when two departments are involved, the monitoring becomes difficult. As you can see, typically the import is from low-cost producing countries like Vietnam and Argentina, etc., whose cost of production is significantly lower. I see there is a fair amount of import from Nepal, which I presume will be to blend with Darjeeling teas, which is, of course, an issue for us. Next one, please. Tea consumption, as you can see on the chart on the right side, you have countries like Turkey, Ireland, and UK, which are 2 kilos plus. Turkey at whopping 5.88 kilograms per capita, that is consumption per head per annum. We are only 700 grams. We a large consumer. We consume almost 1,100 million kilograms out of our 1350 million, or as I mentioned earlier, almost all CTC. Of late, the consumption dwells around 2.5% per annum. There is a marginal increase in recent times driven by the perceived health benefits of tea, particularly green tea. I think we need to do a lot more in terms of generic promotion. Tea board has done some work, but I think I personally feel we need a more simple, straightforward communication. You know, I'm tempted to relate this incident. You know, I had just come back from some conference where there was a paper on the health benefits of tea, and that the presenter said you must have a cup of tea every 4 hours to maintain your antioxidant level in your system. As you know, tea coffee is supplier of flavonoids, which are a principal source of antioxidants. So I was mentioning this to my mother-in-law, who used to live with us at that point in time. And you won't believe, the next day onwards, she started drinking a cup of tea every 4 hours. So what we need is simple, direct communication in terms of the health benefit of tea, and not some high funda stuff. And next, please. In terms of marketing portfolio, 50% of our sales are happening through the auctions. We have 8 auction centers. We have Coimbatore, Coonoor, and Kochi in South India. There is one center called the Tea Serve, which is part of Government of Tamil Nadu initiative. In North, as you know, we have Kolkata, Guwahati, Siliguri, and I think partially Jalpaiguri. The balance, of course, is partly direct sales, direct to the traders, direct to the packers. And of course, you have the direct producer exports and exports through the merchant exporters. Producer exports, I always have a lot of respect for them, because personally, when I was in office, I was driving this very strongly, because there is always a 10 to 15% margin to be got over and above the domestic prices when you are managing to export. Among the tea consumed in India, of course, a small, not small, you know, producers, from a producer point of view, small percentage, but from an overall sales point of view, 50% of the tea consumed in India is through brands, and 50% is still through the loose tea section. You know, it is a very interesting point, because I remember when I used to work for Unilever, they came out with this statistic saying that there is still 50% of the population drinking loose tea, and therefore there is a great opportunity to convert them into brand consumers. And so they concocted a brand called Tiger, which was a mixture of tea and chicory, and it was very low quality. Somehow they assumed that the people who drink loose tea drink poor quality tea, but it was far from truth. In fact, the people who drink loose tea invariably drink much superior quality tea, and as expected, the Tiger brand bombed, for want of a more elegant word. I'm just saying this to understand the psyche of the Indian tea drinking habit. You know, everybody will immediately recommend branding as the solution to all the problems in the tea industry, but one can see that whoever has been successful in branding, be it the Tatas or the Unilever, the company that I worked for, they've all exited from plantations or diluted their stakeholding in plantations, because they found that it is easier to source teas cheaply in the market than having to produce it yourself. This is what I call when milk is cheap, why own a cow syndrome. So the branding has to be something which is beneficial to the producer, and it therefore must form a part portfolio, and if it becomes a full portfolio, then the chances are that it will get hijacked. Next one, please. This is the auction-wise, center-wise, category-wise price in the various auction centers, both in North and South. This is 2021 figures. As you can see, it's got CTC selling at 212 in North India and 139. There is always a 60-70 rupees difference between North and South. Orthodox again 250 and 150. Darjeeling, of course, top of the table, 331. Two issues here. One is the disparity between North India and South India. In the 60s, the South Indian prices, I am told, was higher than North India, because that was the time when South India used to almost entirely produce orthodox teas. But then what happened was when the wages went up in response to that, to reduce cost of production, the planters started chasing volumes at the expense of quality, and therefore price suffered. Whereas the North Indian industry upheld the quality issues, perhaps at the expense of crop yields, certainly at the expense of labor productivity. But now, you have reached a situation where both North and South India are under pressure. And the reason being, we are not able to balance the three fundamental tenets of bottom line, namely, which is typical of any business, which is production, cost, and sale price. But what is significant about the tea industry is, in the cost, you have a huge component of wage and wage-related costs, which forms 65% of the cost of production. So you cannot have chase one at the expense of the other. You cannot chase crop at the expense of cost. You cannot chase price at the expense of crop. You cannot chase cost at the expense of both crop and quality. So somewhere there is a golden mean which each organization need to arrive at, which will protect the bottom line of the industry. Darjeeling, it is it is very bizarre that despite getting the highest price in the country, the industry is in serious trouble, as we all know. And the reason being that the yields are low, the labor output is extremely low. So again, goes back to my theory of not balancing the three facets of the business. Next one, please. There are issues in auctions in terms of correct price discovery. I was very much involved in this right from the year 2000, when I was chairman of the tea committee of the UPASI. At that point in time, there was a mandatory 75% routing through auctions required, which we felt was completely against the interest of the sellers. So we lobbied with the government, and at that point in time, it was Vajpayeeji's government. I remember Murasali Maran Ji was the commerce minister, and he was convinced of our argument, saying that there is a huge difference between the farm gate price and the retail price. And one of the impediment was the mandatory sale through auction. So he was good enough to repeal it. And then we went on to further study the various issues involved in the price discovery mechanism in auctions. There are many principles and process that are not aiding to proper price discovery. There is proxy bidding, which means one buyer can buy on behalf of any number of buyers. There is division of lots, even the biggest buyer in the country dividing lots with the smallest buyer. There is what I call gaming. Is today it is electronic auctions, but you have a time limit, but the buyers don't bid until the last minute. They wait till the last minute, and therefore there is no competition taking place. So proxy, division of lots, crowding till the last minute, all this stifles competition and does not result in correct price discovery given a supply and demand situation. In terms of the process, as you know, we have 2 weeks cataloging time. This 2 weeks cataloging time was done at a time of the Britishers, when it took a huge amount of time for the tea to reach from the plantation to the auction centers, huge amount of time for the information to be passed on. Today they are there with the click of a button. So why should we still have a 2 weeks catalog time is unexplainable. The problem with 2 weeks cataloging time is the buyers then have a huge financial information available to them as to how much tea is available in the country, and they can plan their purchases accordingly, and there is no surprise element in it. You have to compulsorily warehouse, although tea marketing control order allows for ex-garden sales. For some reason, it has not been happening. You have to warehouse within a certain radius of the tea trade center. There is this horrendous thing called free trade samples, which I think tea in India must be the only product in the world to give away free samples. And of course, you have a 2-week prompt period. I understand now the South Indian auction centers are now trying with this Japanese method. What happens in a Japanese method is that particularly to prevent that gaming, so even if you don't bid, over time the price keeps going up incrementally. So there is an automatic incremental increase in the price even if people don't participate in their bidding. And I'm told in Jorhat there is a auction platform run by M Junction. So it'll be interesting to see how these two centers fare. People also talk about a minimum floor price. I personally feel that floor price is all right for basic food grains, but for commercial crops, I don't think it is a workable proposition. All this makes one believe that is auction necessary at all? I mean, when rubber is traded freely and openly, coffee is traded freely and openly, they all seem to be able to find a price commensurate with supply and demand. The problem with having auction is, although you can argue it's only 50%, but all other prices, including your exports, which you are successfully doing, gets pegged to auction price as a benchmark. So that is not in the interest of the sellers. You see, this arrangement has an historical perspective. When the foreign exchange acts were introduced, and when it was not possible for the English companies to repatriate money to England, this was the way they found out to short circuit the system. So the producers were these English companies, brokers were English companies, the buyers were English companies. So it was a system of transfer of money rather than a correct scientific price discovery mechanism. Of course, it has changed hands into Indian business houses, both production and buying. But because it suits the buyer, the system has continued in the same manner ever since, at the expense of the seller's interest. Next one, please. Sustainability is a key issue today in terms of the holistic health of the business. You have sustainability certification today. As you know, these are issued by agencies like Rainforest Alliance, UTZ, which is a European certification body, ETP, Ethical Tea Partnership, is a UK-based certification. And there are, of course, others like the Fair Trade, etc. The tenets of all these are good agricultural practices, basically dealing with soil and water conservation, environmental sustainability, protection of flora and fauna, employee welfare, statutory wages, absence of child labor, good living conditions, etc. Product safety, we'll come to that a little more detail. Basically, the product is safe to drink. Safety at workplace, both in the field and in the factory. Last but not the least, the livelihood of communities, which we talked about earlier on. These communities who are hugely impacted by the plantation industry in the areas that we operate. Next one, please. Yeah, going back to product safety, I believe, and I have personally experienced this, this is a good platform to drive direct exports. As you know, a lot of these evolved markets like Europe and UK and USA, even markets like Taiwan now, are very, very fussy about plant protection residues, as indeed residues of heavy metals. And therefore, it's imperative that we use only approved chemicals approved by the pesticide control board. It's important to monitor the dilution and dosage in the field, an aspect which normally tends to get overlooked. There is this very key element of safe harvest interval, which is the time period between spraying and harvesting, which is stipulated for each chemical. And that is extremely important. Unless you monitor it on the ground, it invariably results in higher residue. And again, integrated pest management using a combination of insecticides, biopesticides, natural enemies, etc. Next one, please. Now, finally, our vision for a sustainable plantation industry. Next one, please. As I said earlier on, I believe that the plantation industry is a fine balance, or should be a fine balance, between economic viability of the business, social and economic security net of workers and farmers, which is the underlying theme of today's workshop, biodiversity, management of biodiversity, and climate change impact and mitigation. Next one, please. To home in on the economic development of communities and workers, including tribals, this can only happen, obviously, if the economic health of the industry is sustained. And as indeed, we need to have a long-term commitment to biodiversity and climate change mitigation because of the areas that we plantations typically operate in. Next one, please. What has changed in the business, though, is, as I said, following the implementation of the Foreign Exchange Regulation Act, which progressively meant a dilution in foreign ownership, leading to complete ownership by Indian nationals. Today, all the tea companies, as indeed your organization, are part of multi-business groups. Now, the significance of this is when there were pure line plantation companies, whether you suffered loss or profit, you continued business in the same manner. When you had profits, you plowed it back into your business. When you had a loss, you supported it from your parent organization. But this is no longer the case because, and I wouldn't blame anybody, because when you're part of a multi-business ownership, then the return on investment becomes the key to the equation with respect to how much money you want to plow back into the business. When I've been part of multi-business group, and the owners have always taken the view that you should manage your business. We are not going to cross-subsidize your business, and that is a fundamental commercial proposition that organizations are bound to take. And I don't think, I am not an authority on that, but I do believe that today even the government policies are in line with that. Privatization of PSUs are increasingly being thought of as a strategy to strengthen the economy, and the whole privatization effort, to my mind, becomes easier when the organization of the unit is run profitably. It becomes a greater target for acquisition by private ownership. So the self-sustainability of the business is something not negotiable. Next one, please. It is easy for me as a consultant to give you half a dozen advice, which will cost you a lot of money, which neither is it my brief, nor do I do it with any other clients that I deal with. because when the business is under pressure, now how do you deal with inputs that are going to cost you more money? So I'm only going to deal with some major issues which I believe are more of a strategic nature, which has bearing on the future economics of the tea industry. I mean, as we mentioned in the beginning, the basic issue is the disparity, the growing disparity between price and costs. We had done some statistics using 1995 as a base year, and I think the cost had gone up 8 times, where the cost including wages have gone up by 8 times, whereas in real terms the price had only gone up by 2 times in a 20-year span. So naturally such a mismatch is bound to create margin pressures in the business. And even more significant is the fact that this is a business which has 65% of your cost of production is on wage and wage related costs. As you know, typically in any other industry, this will not be more than 15%. So somewhere that 65% must at least come down to half by some means or the other. Having said that, I hasten to add that wages and living conditions of the workers are well taken care of in some organizations, some are not. But needless to say, they must improve further, and they will improve further both on ethical consideration, as indeed on the strength of a reputational risk. You know, Assam tea industry has attracted a lot of flack from the consuming world on issues of low wage and poor living conditions. I'm not passing a judgment on that because I'm not an expert on that. The fact remains that there is a reputational risk for Assam tea in particular. I'm not saying it's not there elsewhere, but you know, a strong product like that with huge quality potential is beginning to suffer in terms of reputational risk in front of the international client deal. So something obviously needs